Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Sherry and this is Gardening in the North. I live in Ontario, Canada, growing zone 5B, and I do most of my gardening in ground or in raised beds. However, I also like to do container gardening. So I have a lot of containers or barrels, half barrels, that I have around the pool area. And a couple years ago, I made a decision to not only grow flowers, but to actually grow food in them. Because a lot of the leafy greens that you can grow, or onions, or even beets, carrots, peppers, you name it, have a really beautiful look to them. And I just thought, if I'm going to grow beautiful things in these containers, these barrels, why not grow food? So I'm going to walk you around today, show you, I don't know, 8 or 9 of my barrels. But before I do that, I wanted to touch on some of the barrels that don't look as pretty. Now, sometimes with YouTube or videos that you might watch, as a creator, we can decide if we want to show you the ugly or the bad. And I think that is really important to show that to you, to let you know that, our gardens aren't perfect. They're not immaculate, and we aren't perfect. And we do have lives outside of gardening. And sometimes those lives of ours get in the way of having that perfect garden. And sometimes when you don't have a perfect garden, that's when you have the best harvest. So before I show you what the barrels look like, I wanted to touch on some of the ones that don't look so great. So this one behind me here was bok choy. And we actually got a really hot spell really fast, and it lasted, I want to say, for almost a week. It was heat warnings, and we were told to stay inside, and my bok choy went straight to seed. And so I could have pulled it. I could have planted something else, but like I mentioned, life gets in the way, and I didn't. So what I have now, though, is a bunch of these dried pods from the bok choy that contain seeds. So even though I don't have perfect container gardening, I have seeds for next year. So I ended up with a benefit by having my life get in the way. Let's look at another one. Now that I'm kind of looking around, I noticed that I have about 4 or 5 of these containers that really do need some TLC. So all of you out there that are gardeners, that container garden specifically, you know that you can't neglect your containers by not giving them water. Now, we have had rain on and off, pretty much every third day it's rained here. And I have to tell you that that's probably not enough water for these containers. They actually need more. These containers are in the sun a lot of the day. So in this container here, I have some Spanish onions, some kale, I had some mustard greens, and I also had some bok choy in this one as well. Some of it has gone to seed, as you can see. Some of it has been, I'll just pull a piece, I'll show you. Some of it has been eaten away by pests. Oh, I'm going to show you up close. You can see them right there. So some of them are not only have they been eaten by pests, but they're still being eaten by pests. So what I need to do is actually pull everything out of those 4 containers, save the seeds that I want to save, and then replant for the fall. And I will probably do that next week. I'm going to be on vacation for a couple weeks, so I'll make sure that I put that on my to-do list. So now that we've looked at the bad and the ugly, let's look at the good. First barrel I want to show you is filled with Spanish onions and celery. And you can see how the celery is growing in there. It actually looks really pretty. I don't know if the camera is really showing you how cool and bushy that this barrel looks, but I really like it. The next one I want to show you is my walking stick kale, and I'm just going to go down low so you can kind of see how tall it is. It's about a foot tall right now. Now you can see I already have these little worms starting to attack it. So I will have to come out here later and actually start pulling those off by hand. I'm sure my chickens will love it. So next to the walking stick kale barrel, we have a barrel filled with beets and onions. Onions are in a lot of my barrels because I had so many extra. And if I just get in real close here, you can actually see right in here that they're doing really well in this barrel. And if I just go across the steps here, again, another barrel of beets, except this one here has leeks in it. And if I look, oh, this is a good one to show you. You can see, oh, let me move this and this. You can actually see the beet here and the beet there. They're pretty good size. Another barrel I have, of course, is filled with onions. I had so many, I basically just jammed them all in there, really to use them for green onions and to just have a different type of barrel. They are really bushy and they are standing straight up, as you can see, and they look amazing from across the patio. All right, so in this barrel here, you can see that there is a tiny little squash plant growing. I'm not actually sure what type of squash plants I've planted in here. This is one. The one I just showed you is the second one. And then we have this one over here. You'll also notice that we have a lot of tomato plants growing in here as well, because if you watched my tomato video that I did about a month ago, 6 weeks ago now, you'll recall that I mentioned that a lot of my compost had tomato seeds in it. Over in this barrel here, again, we have squash. It is on its way out. I think the pests have gotten to it, but I do have a squash in there, so that's good news. At least I got something. Okay, so at the bottom of the steps here, we have a barrel of carrots, and I'm just going to pull one out and show you. They are doing really good. They're nice and straight, which is really good considering last year I used seedlings and they came out very twisted and bent up. So the fact that I have nice straight carrots growing in this barrel, it's already a success. So if we move up to the next one, I've planted more carrots, but I also have some purple kale in there just to give it a little bit of color to the barrel and to add a different color to our salads. And so if we keep going across here, we have some cayenne peppers. Now these cayenne peppers have not been doing very good. I did pull off all the small peppers originally in the hopes that these pepper plants would grow a little bit better, but they don't seem to like where they are. So these ones aren't going to do any good for me. And then we'll just move down to the next barrel. In here I have some dinosaur kale, and behind it is some sweet potato vines. So they are going to grow on the fence, which will add a really pretty look once the flowers start to come in. And if I keep spanning across, here is just a gorgeous barrel of Sugar Rush cream peppers. And you can see that this plant, or these plants, I think there are 6 of them in here, are just covered with the start of these peppers. they really seem to like this barrel. And it's interesting because these were really late bloomers. I wasn't sure that they were going to actually grow. And then we'll just span to the last barrel on the steps here. And it is a barrel of cayenne peppers. And I specifically wanted to grow cayenne peppers so that I could feed them to my chickens when it gets cold in the winter, just to help them a little bit with some of their heat production. And so you can see that they are growing really good, which is really weird because the barrel that has the other cayenne peppers that is right across the walkway from these ones isn't doing very good at all, but these ones are doing really good. I even have more flowers coming. So I'll make sure that I pull off these peppers fairly soon in the next few days so that the plants know that their job is still to produce peppers as opposed to thinking that they're done. One more thing I want to show you. Now, this isn't container gardening. It's not part of my container garden group, but I do want to show you the fence on the other side. So we're on the pool side of the fence. And right on the other side of the pool fence here is really my giant patch of strawberries. But what I find really interesting is all of these runners that are pulling out or climbing out of the patch and coming into the pool side. So I will definitely start pulling some of these or cutting some of these off. And I think I'm going to plant a bunch of them in the food forest and a bunch of them in that barrel where the cayenne peppers aren't doing so good, just so that they can thrive a little bit there, and maybe I'll get a second harvest of strawberries. So I thought I would end today's video with my Sugar Rush cream peppers, which is my favorite barrel right now, and say that I need to get inside into the air conditioning because it is too hot to garden today. Thanks for spending time with me.